As you saw a few seconds ago, Stephen is already with us here in South. He's starting in South
Sneaking
Korea
into
today.
the
You
building.
snuck in, didn't you? You snuck in under Barack Obama, in fact, where more of the country's biggest companies have been implicated in the growing corruption scandal there.
The conglomerates Lot and SK had their offices raided by prosecutors in Seoul. They've been accused of making donations worth 13 million euros to foundations that are linked to the woman at the centre of this scandal in exchange for her help in securing government contracts. Cho Sun-sil is accused of using her ties to the South Korean president to influence government decisions. The offices of the finance ministry were also searched as part of the same inquiry. These raids come a day after the offices of Samsung were also examined by prosecutors over a different part of this investigation. More and more companies getting involved.
OK, let's have a look at the markets then. How are they faring?
We had another record finish on Wall Street last night for the Dow and the S&P. Today, European shares opening in the green as well. Not by huge amounts, though, it has to be said. Germany's DAX up 0.5% after its growth rate came in at 0.2% for the third quarter. That was half of the rate for the previous 3 months, but in line with expectations, so no shocks there. Over in Asia, more red on the boards. We'd falls on the Hang Seng in Hong Kong and on the Kospi in Seoul. Interestingly, one of those companies involved in those raids, a lot, its shares down in South Korea trading today. Moving on with a look at some more of the day's business headlines. Pilots at Lufthansa have extended their strike into Friday. More than 1,800 flights have already been cancelled over the walkout, which began on Tuesday evening. The pilots are in a long-running dispute with Lufthansa over pay. Friday's action is expected only to affect the company's short-haul flights. A Chinese travel company has bought flight search engine Skyscanner for over 1.6 billion euros. Ctrip is the biggest player in the Chinese market, while Edinburgh-based Skyscanner is a leader in Europe. It's the latest in a string of global acquisitions by Chinese companies seeking to grow in foreign markets. And the European Commission has delayed its investigation into France's treatment of Uber until after next May's presidential election. According to Politico, the decision was taken by Commission Chief Jean-Claude Juncker. Uber had complained to Brussels, saying the French government broke EU laws in its policies concerning the ride-sharing industry.
Going to talk to you now about India. People there struggling to deal with that decision by the government to replace the vast majority of its banknotes.
It's been just over 2 weeks since Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced that he was pulling more than 80% of banknotes from circulation. The measure is part of a crackdown on the black economy, but the decision has left some people short of cash and some businesses without customers. Brian Quinn has the story.
At this New Delhi fruit market, the effects of India's demonetization policy are plainly visible. Normally a bustling hive of economic activity, business here has slowed to a crawl. Goods rot on the street, waiting for customers who don't arrive.
You can see the market's empty. There's no produce, no customers. What are we going to do? Our business has stopped.
It's just one measure of the fallout from India's self-inflicted cash crunch. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's surprise announcement on November 8th that India's two largest denomination bills would be immediately scrapped has led to protests in Parliament and long lines at banks and ATMs as citizens rush to turn in their old notes ahead of the December 30th deadline. The policy is part of an effort to crack down on tax evasion and modernize India's shadowy economy, where close to 90% of all transactions are conducted in cash. Since Modi's announcement, roughly 80 billion euros worth of currency has been turned in. Businesses are scrambling to offset the damage, in some cases paying employees months of salary in advance and backdating invoices. Wealthy individuals have employed so-called cash mules to deposit money for them and return a portion of it later. But India's working poor have few options other than to wait in line. Banks and ATMs are unable to keep up with demand for new notes, which are still being printed.
Everyone is in trouble because there is no money in our pockets. We eat one day and go hungry the next. I am unable to earn money because I am standing in line and not going to work.
In the meantime, the government is asking its citizens to hold on, saying the short-term pain will give way to long-term economic benefits.
Brian Quinn there. Now, finally, from Stephen, a study showing why young workers are least optimistic about their future. Going to depress us at the end of the bulletin.
It is a little bit depressing. Japan holds the unhappy title of being home to the world's gloomiest millennials. This is according to a study by the recruitment firm Manpower. It found that fewer than 40% of young workers in Japan hoped for a bright future. That's even lower than the rate they found in Greece, which of course has had huge economic problems. So across the 18 major economies where the survey was conducted, in general, 62% of young people are optimistic about their future careers. In Japan, though, younger workers are facing the prospect of paying for caring for a rapidly ageing population. In Japan, 37% of people expect to work until they die.
Wow.
That's the highest in the percentage of any of the in the countries that were surveyed.
We'll still all be here.
We'll still all be here.
Decades. Just about. Thank you, Stephen Carroll with Business of France 24.